So again, such a great man, such a humble guy. One of the qualities that we have seen in all great leaders is the humility. I am deaf to the word no. I mean, it's a characteristic that I would encourage that you guys start developing in the campus. And I can give you examples of examples of these. You know, we had quotas in the mess. In those days, rice was rationed, puris were rationed, chapatis were rationed, but when it came to me, there was no issues. I had everything unlimited because I never listened to that word that this is the limit. He said, when I'm hungry, I eat. It starts with that. You don't accept an uncompromising position or a condition or a rule. So those were the days that were different, but today things are different, right? So in your own way, don't accept the word no. Start building that as a quality in you, because that is exactly what the corporate India needs, the world needs, and that's what you need to be an entrepreneur. You know, the next one is Steve Jobs. I mean, this guy, when I listen to him, and I've done obviously a lot of research trying to understand who these great entrepreneurs are. You know what his reality distortion factor, there was a study done by Harvard, and they put all the entrepreneurs have one great quality in them: they distort reality. If you go and talk to them, they are so passionate because they see the future with so much clarity that they will only talk about the future. But you, as an ordinary soul, which I am including myself, I have been with some entrepreneurs too, you start looking at it and saying, what is he saying? And then the Harvard guys were smart enough to come up with reality distortion factor. And they came up with a scale of 0 to 100, like the hardness scale, right? And this guy was 100. And you know, he could distort reality. He could think of the dings that he talks about that he can invent. I mean, unbelievable if you go and read about this guy's life story, right? He never listened to the word no in his life. And he was one guy who always wanted to make a difference, and that too, he was the first guy to actually globalize production of his products. He had the guts to take on IBM, everything that you read about him. So I want you to get inspired with such guys to go in and do it. And this guy, another great man, all of you know about him. It's not about greed, it's about innovation and fairness, is what he always says. Now people can say that he was not the inventor of Windows, all those great stories. I have had the opportunity to work with Microsoft when I was with EDS. We bought Microsoft license for $1 on a forward pricing for about 250,000 licenses. He had the guts to sell his software at $1 to us in 1987-88. Right? So you got to look at it as a guy who passionately believes that Windows will be there in every home. That's what he used to say. You know, that will be the user interface. When we were listening to him, he would say that when you get into a car, I used to live in Detroit, and Detroit is known for cars. So whether it didn't matter whether it was Chrysler, Ford, or you know, you talk about all the great companies like General Motors, all the different models. You didn't have to go through specialized training to go from one car to the other. All that you needed to know was how to use an accelerator, a brake, and a clutch. So this guy used to say, if you guys can come up with a user interface in Detroit for cars, and now Japanese can make it, Koreans can make it, why is it that in IBM, every time the user interface has to be different? It has to be the same. Now what we see today, all the .NETs and all the Javas and all the great technology that is available there today, we are beginning to see the fruit of such powerful vision that has now transformed our society and the usage of computers today. And this is another great man. Whenever I am depressed as an entrepreneur, and there are several moments as an entrepreneur one gets depressed, and I used to go to this great museum in Detroit. I used to live there for about 18 years, and one of his famous thing was, people can have Model T as long as the color is black. Any color as long as the color is black. And how many of you are mechanical engineers here? Great. Most probably all of you will relate to it. There was this V4 engine to start with. Then they came up with, sorry, V4, 4-cylinder engine. Then they wanted more power, so they came up with 8 cylinders. 8 cylinders was a gas guzzler. And the story goes that all the great engineers and PhDs who worked for him went to him and said that, hey, 8 cylinders are too much, we need to go back to 4, and that's where it... So he said, if 4 is not good enough for the customer and 8 is too much, why not 6? So people started laughing at him. He says, sir, you're not an engineer, but you know what, you cannot balance. You need to have in multiples of 4. Then he said, wait a minute, why does it have to be 4 to balance? He said, yes, sir, the thrust works this way and all the technical reason. He said, why not then we do for 2 balancing with a V cylinder? And he spent enormous personal hours convincing engineers, and a V6 engine was born in the automotive industry thanks to that kind of answer. He couldn't take an answer for a no. Innovations are often not because you have a brilliant idea, but because there is a need. And when the need is understood, technology is adapted to get to that need. And that's the job of an entrepreneur, is to challenge the system, challenge the people who work with him. He's not an innovator. He didn't invent anything. He didn't hold any patents. Right? And his great-grandchildren today are drawing, each one of them, about $75 million a year of dividend. That's the kind of wealth he created. Right? Now, what do these people have in common? And that's what we are going to talk about. And I'll also cover my journey. Keep going forward here. We'll talk who is an entrepreneur, what defines an entrepreneur, entrepreneurial characteristics and traits, entrepreneurial life cycle. If any one of you want to be, how should you go about? It's something that is from my personal life. It is not something that has been published. My story and questions. That's how we will go through this session for the next 35-40 minutes here.